We're here to honor the memory of a beloved friend, daughter, and altruist, the kindest woman of all, someone who devoted her whole self to the care of the unfortunate, a woman whose life could only have ended in sacrifice, a woman who loved and was loved, and who could only ever have lost everything. Out of the desperation of loss, she became determined to take drastic measures, and in Pathologic 3, the newest iteration of the now 20-year-old story about a plague outbreak in a small town in Central Asia, her determination was so unshakable and those measures so untenable that the player is left with no choice but to engineer her death. In the aftermath, those who loved her spent precious moments to organize a funeral. Several people shared their memories of her as a gentle, wise Madonna, and to some extent as a stubborn, free-spirited girl. But the only named characters who speak at her funeral are men, and in the words of Peter Stomaton, they are also wrong. In fact, everything I've just said is a misrepresentation. So I'd like to take this opportunity to say a few words of my own about her, and to examine the process that brings us to this scene, and the scene's purpose in that process. We'll begin our reflection with a traditional truism. Lara Ravel is broken. She is used to mourning the sorrows of this world. I, on the other hand, am used to winning. As a Maria Kaina warrior, it's honestly hard not to win. My only real requirement is that she do something crazy, and she does that without fail, and everyone loves it, and I love it, and so I win. But we're not here to talk about my wins, or anyone's wins. Unlike Maria, Lara Ravel famously doesn't win. Not once, not ever. Lara Ravel was born to an unknown woman and the unnamed Captain Ravel, the town's war hero. Captain Ravel was a powerful and respected man, once said to be capable of breaking a bull in half with his bare hands. As his daughter, she grew up in the military class. Notably, this is neither gentry nor working class, but shares some characteristics with both. The only member of the Bound who shares this specific class identity is potentially her friend Stanislav Rubin in Pathologic Classic, who was in the army before receiving a disabling injury, but Rubin is never suggested to have been an officer and doesn't seem to have made a fortune during his service. Lara's class position, therefore, is a mechanism that isolates her and her story from the other characters we know. Her biography is a biography of alienation as well as of failure. In Pathologic 2, Lara grew up alongside 3 friends, Rubin, Artemi Burach, and Bad Grief. These 4 children were the ideological predecessors of the imaginative, organized, and violent children we know in the town on Gorkhan. The game specifically ties them to the Soul and a Halves gang by establishing that their childhood hideout was located in the same warehouse. We understand that these children played with explosives, disappeared for weeks onto the steppe, and stole from shops in town. Among them, Lara was called Gravel for her sharp edges, and Proud Trout for her patronizing attitude, and she was an active partner in their mayhem.
She always had it in her. Do you recall? Adults could never see what such a prim and proper girl could want from being in your gang. A daughter told Captain Ravel. She surely ought to stay ensconced among her books.
She was proper, though. Carried a book around sometimes. Was a brilliant distraction when we were busy filling our pockets with stolen candy.
You see, she puts her stock in deeds and not in words. So Stach was always close to her, for he would hear his heart and act. A trait you share, Burach.
So she's listening to her heart and acting? At some time in her young adulthood, Lara's beloved father was killed. The air of tragedy only enhanced her reputation, Lara was well loved. She was a nervous woman, but she always hoped to be friends with everyone, and she was an altruist, defined more than anything by kindness and care. She was well-mannered, a polite woman, a presentable woman. She dedicated herself to caring for the less fortunate. She operated her home as a shelter and was deeply concerned with social services and utilities in town. She was a support to countless people in crisis, including Peter Stomatin, who sought her out in his struggles with alcoholism and depression.
Long story short, Lara is believed to be the kindest woman of us all. However,
that's not true.
She is a woman devastated by grief. All the gifts that she is so happy to give away are fundamentally offerings to a dead person. She favors the living with something the dead have no use for.
Who's the addressee?
Could it be her late father? This is merely a speculation, though, something I was able to conjecture from what observations I made.
So, Lara's no angel?
Her philanthropy is almost reprehensible. She pities everyone she comes across, for she knows they will all die, just like her dearly departed. She sees a corpse in everyone she looks upon. I can't say I appreciate it.
In reality, Lara is less of a philanthropist than a psychopomp. At least from her own perspective, she is consigned to a life of ferrying the helpless to oblivion, eternally working to resolve an insurmountable spiritual debt. There is no satisfaction or fulfillment in her work. At best, there's a distraction from grief.
It's just that sometimes you feel, all too poignantly, that your life is over. You're not even 30, but you're done. Not dead, but burnt through. And there's nothing ahead for you.
In Pathologic 2, Lara's mask was slipping. Artemi Burak was the only player character of Pathologic 2. In that game, Lara cared about you unwaveringly, but was often unkind and aggressive. She shouted, berated, and insulted you for not taking better care of yourself. Even Artemi and Lara's reunion after years apart lacked warmth. In contrast to the openness and liveliness of her shelter in Pathologic Classic, the upstairs of her father's mansion was closed. Since his death, she didn't go up there, implying she herself slept on the same couch she offered you, beneath her father's portrait. Should I sleep upstairs? That's where the guest rooms used to be, anyway, when we were kids.
No, don't go upstairs. It's all locked. Ever since Father died, I don't go up there. Use this bed instead.
Lara, what's wrong? Why won't you look at me?
Not now. Go and eat. You know it's September, don't you? Do you even remember what autumn's like here? You must eat, even if portions are small, or else you'll become feeble. Your father taught us this.
For Lara, the army's arrival in town was a moment of awakening. By fate or miracle, the leader of the regiment that came to occupy the town was General Alexander Bloch, a character we had relatively little context for. But Lara, from her unique social position, had plenty. He had known her father. In fact, she held him responsible for her father's death, and more. For that, she was determined to kill him, or at least to make a statement of the attempt. It was poorly planned and poorly hidden, resulting in demeaning comments from the Bachelor as well as Yulia, but the intention and motivation was completely serious.
Please, don't be surprised with my strange request. I need a pistol, and it must come with bullets or whatever it is that they shoot.
I know everything, madam. What's with the insane fantasies?
Thwarted again. Please, at least don't report me.
But why?
He is a war criminal. All his fame is nothing but lies. Hearsay would have him as some kind of faultless knight, but in reality he's a bloodthirsty butcher. And we'll all find that out soon enough. But by then, it will be too late.
In Pathologic 2, Lara was faced with the same reunion. This time she was more prepared, more determined, and more competent. There's no question with this Lara regarding what kind of thing shoots out of a pistol. She acquired a revolver for herself, no more toy guns, and went to the town hall without a word to carry out her revenge. She only confided her plan in the people to whom she intended to leave her shelter, and she prepared a note to prevent any of her friends from taking responsibility on her behalf. But of course there was no victory for Lara. In neither game was there ever the option for her to succeed. It was always futile. She was always too weak or too slow, and he was always too strong, too powerful. She was arrested or killed if she made the attempt, and so it was up to you to protect her, by stopping her from ever trying.
It's not like you're my husband or older brother, are you now? If you won't bring it to me, I'll just ask the Haruspecs. He's less squeamish.
No, Lara. I need you alive. Don't even think about getting a firearm.
In Pathologic 2, despite her preparedness, Block was gone by the time she reached the town hall.
I failed.
What do you have here? A revolver? Give it to me, discreetly.
I couldn't do anything. I came in, waited here. They asked what I wanted. I said I wanted to see the general. And they laughed. Said it'd be a long wait.
Come on, let's go from here, all right? It's over. Now please, come.
Only, here's what I think. Longin, the mutineers' leader, was Block's executive officer, his loyal watchdog. Father wrote that he'd go through hell or high water for the general, meaning,
We really need to leave, now, please.
it's not a mutiny. They seized him to make sure he doesn't have to disobey orders. They adore him. General Ashes, a beloved general. They removed him from dirty work to make sure he has an excuse, that he's safe, that he's not punished when they return.
Stop shouting, they'll hear. Quiet.
And that means he'll escape with his whole hide, safe, with a clean reputation.
He'll meet his fate sooner or later. Come on, that's enough war for you for today. The inevitability of this failure was an understandable decision on its own, a meditation on futility, the insurmountable force of the military machine that creates cycles upon cycles of violence and pain, and destroys every life it touches. Another loss for a woman who always loses. But it was unfortunate nonetheless that this arc could never result in a successful assassination. It was more unfortunate in the fact that no woman in any Pathologic game had unequivocally committed an act of violence with her own hands. Even where neutral male NPCs become aggressive if attacked, or if the player's reputation is low enough, the female characters of Pathologic have never been able to raise a hand to defend themselves, although they are consistently on the receiving end of the most graphic violence in the games. Only the changeling, who is degendered both by being a child and by being a player character, can wield a weapon, although not the same weapons that the male player characters use. Her bare-handed attack is also ranged and powered by magic, which is associated strongly with women and femininity in the game, preventing her from using mundane physical violence. Pathologic 3 was supposed to change that. From the release of the first demo, Quarantine, which contained references to a successful assassination, Lara Ravel fans the world over rejoiced. For the better part of a year, we dared to hope. And then, on January 9th, Pathologic 3 dropped. From the beginning of the game, Lara is her beautiful classic HD self, with the genteel, guarded compassion that defines her mask. She works hard to provide clean water to the people of the town, is the safe place where other characters turn in crisis, and advocates earnestly for her friends. Yulia has nothing to say in opposition to this image, but that's alright. The trap is armed. Let's see how it springs. Before the army arrives, Lara is killed. Clara, the changeling, explains that she didn't kill Lara on purpose. She tried to take her pain away, as she had done for countless people before. But locked inside Lara Ravel, underneath her reserved exterior, was a pit of pain and anger so hot that it destroyed Lara the moment it was released. Lara's bloodlust was a slow, dormant thing, but it was bloodlust. It was always bloodlust. There was nothing but anger inside her. But Pathologic 3 is a time travel game, so this event is something we can alter. We, as Dankovsky, go back in time to save Lara by getting Clara locked up before she can kill her. Then, with cautious hope, we load into day 10. When we find a letter from Georgi on our desk, Alexander Bloch has been gravely wounded, perhaps killed, we start cheering. We send messages to our friends and loved ones. Lara made the shot. Officer down. Mission accomplished. Imagine how crazy Gorhan Twitter would be on this day. Feeling increasingly elated, we go to the town hall before anything else. And what do we find there? Alexander Bloch is sprawled on a chair, his eyes unseeing. Rivers of blood fill the streets of the model town behind him. The officer next to him confirms it happened right there, in front of God and everyone. She did it. She's been arrested, of course. She knew that this was the price, and she paid it willingly. She tells us more about her motivations now, making it clear that this is not only a revenge killing, but equally an act of political conviction.
It was a day of shame. My father was the captain of an artillery battery. They talk a lot about the fords now, but they're always omitting the ugliest, filthiest details. For example, the matter of our troops launching artillery strikes at uncharted territories. Upon receiving the order to shoot at a town, my father required the headquarters to provide recon data, a confirmation that there were no civilians inside. You know what they told him? That they had no time for that. That they needed to catch the enemy unawares. My father refused to follow the order.
So what? Was Alexander Bloch to blame somehow?
You're not listening. The man who gave the order to have my father shot for insubordination was Alexander Bloch. To this day, it remains unknown how many people died in those barbaric shellings at the fords. The military never talk of things like that, because the ends justify the means.
Well, the vengeance is done. How are you feeling? Do you feel any better?
I've only done what I had to do, what was needed. Now, come what may.
So there it is. She stands by what she did. As she expected in 2, Artemi is desperate to tank the consequences for her. But as is her design, he can't. Everyone saw her. It's her perfect crime. She did what she needed to do, the only thing that could even begin to make her whole. The thing that the bitter coal in her chest was demanding. What she wanted in a way she didn't know she was capable of, and kept her loved ones clean. She took one last passenger to the other side, and she was ready to go with him. It's beautiful, and the Pyrrhic nature of her victory is that she can never find peace and never walk free. It didn't save her. Forgive the theater kid language, but consider this moment the intermission of Into the Woods. If you want to feel good, take the kids home now. Immediately, something isn't right. From every direction, every character, every corner of the UI, we're told that we can't let this happen. Alexander Bloch, a man we may not have even spoken to yet, and whom we now suspect to be at minimum complicit in war crimes, needs to live. Because, the army will go crazy if they don't have their daddy. Sure, his soldiers are getting beaten with his tacit approval, but he probably just doesn't know about that. Speaking of which, no one in his command structure tells him about the murder on the polyhedron steps. None of them tell him about the slaughter in the rail yard. Sure, he seems more concerned with optics than doing the right thing. Sure, he bombarded a town full of civilians once, and that's something we're specifically trying to avoid here. But we need him. We need him. He's the only thing holding the army together, even though he seems to have no control over what they do. The game can't even show you this threatened fail state, can't even offer you a bad ending for your troubles. It merely tells you that you can't move forward yet. This is not how the story goes. So, okay, sure. We go back on our promise that no mechanical benefit could ever make us stop Lara from killing Bloch. The ability to finish the game is less of a benefit than a necessity in any case, if you're someone who likes to make video essays and know what you're talking about, like I am. We hop back to day 9 and say, hey, Lara, don't do that. I get that you want to, but it's a bad idea, okay? Half-heartedly, Lara agrees to consider it. And we get a log entry saying she gave her word, which isn't what she said, but whatever. We head over to day 10 to see the damage. What's that? It happened again? Lara thought about what Dankovsky said and decided she needed to do it anyways. Good for her. That's awesome. It's suggested we need to warn Bloch, but that's encroaching too much onto Lara's autonomy for my comfort, and I don't want her to get really hurt. She wants it bad, and I love that for her. Besides, at the time of my playthrough, the game was still broken enough that his death had absolutely no mechanical effect besides the stern warnings in the thoughts screen. In fact, at this time in real life, around January 11th, we could still progress to day 11 even with Bloch dead, a bug that was later fixed. And he's right there, right as rain. Way to have my cake and eat it too. I couldn't get to day 12, but I wasn't certain that specifically had to do with his death, and there was still plenty to do anyways. I met the Inquisitor's downfall with absolute glee. What did I say before about winning? I still can't walk in there without getting manic in real life. We'll get to that, don't worry. Another thing I still had to do involved my commitment to eke every possible bad grief interaction out of the game. If you only know me from my videos, you may not know that bad grief is my actual favorite. This motivated me to do the tedious work of fulfilling all of his little side quests, which resulted in, to my genuine surprise, a real, actual, legitimate ending triggered on day 10, where the credits roll and everything. The escape ending. It's clearly an auxiliary ending, mirroring the deal in 2, and it's as bizarre and hilarious as one might imagine a bad grief-triggered ending to be. I was progressively dumbfounded as I realized this was actually going to end the game. I was playing with friends in real life, and I remember repeatedly saying, "Is this an actual ending? I think this is an actual ending. I think this is the actual end of the game. I think this is going to end the game." So I struggled to process the interactions that followed. I actually really like the escape ending, and this route, letting Lara make the shot and then skipping town to let the Horospecs and Changeling do their thing, is basically the in-game equivalent of the aforementioned Into the Woods intermission. It actually makes a great game, narratively satisfying, a perfect conclusion for a true anti-hero. After the credits, you're back in the mirror room, from your first suicide, remember? I learned later that this sort of landing page happens after every ending, and the interactions therein are the same. In the mirror room, there's a conversation with the tragedian where they tell you, don't worry, you can hop right back into the time loop. Similar to the Pathologic 2 endings, you briefly reflect on the... Wait. What was that? That's weird. Because Lara's alive. Lara's in jail, but she's alive. Maybe this is just a bug? Peter Stomaton is marked dead in my people page at the time of recording this, even though he's definitely not. Let's see. What? Chalk this up to something weird in the game or an odd translation. Don't worry about it. Play around some more, finish quests, set everything up how you like it. Finally, sure, just for the content, let's see what happens if we get Lara arrested before the assassination. Okay, load back into day 10, and you may know where this is going. It still happens. It's even worse this time. A bunch of soldiers are dead too. How? Oh, there was an accomplice. An unidentified man. Artemi, Ruben, maybe even Grief. Guess we'll have to talk down the whole... Oh. No. Actually, the game says, don't worry about it. It was just some guy. Not a real person, and you can never track him down. No way. Just not possible. Fuck you. There is only one way you can progress. You have to kill Lara Ravel. Even a Pyrrhic victory for Lara Ravel is incompatible with the survival of the town. I wonder why. If you have the escape ending armed, it seems Bad Grief may offer to smuggle you out of town and end the game before he even starts speaking at Lara's funeral. If you get this bug, I suggest you take him up on the offer. One thing I've noticed about Pathologic 3 as a whole is that it struggles immensely with a lack of the character context and background relationships we get in other games, especially Pathologic Classic. I've described it as though every character seems to be an island. Things that happen to one character aren't commented on by the people close to them, with notable exceptions and very specific plot points. Seriously, tell me why neither of the Stomatons say a single word about Maria during the whole game, even when they're literally standing next to each other. A lot of the tension and bitterness between characters has also disappeared. Khan is no longer in conflict with his father, Lara and Ruben have no longer disowned Grief, Maria no longer has anything cruel to say about Ava, nor Yulia about Lara, nor Aspity about everyone at large. This makes for a less textured world, and opportunities to establish meaningful relationships in the present are often abandoned in favor of focusing on characters' relationships with Simon or Farhad. When characters are connected to one another, more often than not, it's by the shackle of an unambiguous romantic love. The few instances we do have of bridges being built between characters or characters being fleshed out by the testimony of others are striking and well written. Grace's and Lara's comments about Peter are an excellent example, and I was hoping that this final meeting of the Apple Basket gang could do the same. So I was actually excited to go to the funeral. I love the Apple Basket dynamic. I think it's one of the sequel's greatest contributions to the world of Pathologic. And I was excited to finally see at least 3 of them in the same place, hoping I'd even see Grief and Ruben talk to each other directly for the first time ever. Instead, one by one, they independently confess to being in love with Lara. I'm not joking, but you'd be forgiven in thinking I am. Comedy comes in threes, and this is just absurd. Generously, any one of these confessions might have been a nice dimension, although I find it almost impossible to believe that any of these characters would drop them at this moment, much less in conversation with the town's own Dr. Gregory House. You can see it particularly in the way Bad Grief's dialogue struggles. In general, Grief's dialogue isn't as slick or intentional as it was in 2, but this just feels unlike him. In these one-on-one conversations, they each tell a different version of the same story about Lara, one where the boys tried to solve a problem with force, and Lara solved it with compassion, altruism, and just the right words. Saintly. Even the Bachelor's smell-o-vision paints Lara as a martyr here. This post-mortem characterization is both an insult and a punishment in itself. The reason for this is rooted in certain archetypes. The visual language and narrative of Pathologic 3 suggest, although thinly, that the game is a work of cinema intended to follow the way that Pathologic 2 was framed as a play. In film, the archetype of the female assassin is both famous and clear in its origin. This is the femme fatale.
No, I never loved you, Walter, not you or anybody else. I'm rotten to the heart. I used you just as you said.
This specific term is used diegetically in Pathologic 3 to describe multiple characters, including Maria in another win for me, with varying degrees of accuracy, but certainly is essential to understanding Lara, who shares two important characteristics with the original femmes fatales of film noir: a hidden agenda and a hidden monstrosity. And the game's relationship with Lara is as complicated and paternalistic as Hollywood's relationship with its own violent women. In the first installment of my video essay on Maria Kaina, I explained, typically the femme fatale is allowed to exist in a man's world and to threaten it for a short time on the condition that she is eventually either punished by death or imprisonment, or purified by submitting to the status quo, usually via marriage and traditional motherhood. In the essay I was paraphrasing there, Jenny Platz says, because femmes fatales disrupt the gender restrictions society places onto women, they are always eliminated in the films. The women are punished for their power through prison or death. Femmes fatales are allowed to be powerful, but it is at the price of their lives. The punishment of femmes fatales, such as Cora in The Postman Always Rings Twice, and Christina in Kiss Me Deadly, result in the fatale's death, while Fatale Candy of Pickup on South Street is bound in a relationship at the end of the film, thus losing all of her powers. In both Classic and Pathologic 2, should Lara attempt to wield her monstrosity unimpeded by the male protagonist, her punishment is immediate. In Pathologic 3, she is more monstrous than ever before, both in the fact that her attempt is successful, and in the fact that there is no way for you, the man, to change her mind. Her punishment, therefore, is inflated in equal measure. She must die, and she must die without having ever experienced her own success. She cannot be allowed to actually do it. Her death, even mechanically, is a direct result of the power of her anger. But that's not enough. After her punishment, Lara is also purified. She is, quote, bound in a relationship, 3 relationships, in fact, thus losing her edge and her autonomy to definition by male characters who explicitly specify their attraction to her. In these conversations, she is exclusively described as a mom friend, a benevolent angel, and an unattainable object. Even the rebellious, unstable edge of the Apple Basket Gang's dynamic has been neutered, allowing these reflections to neuter her in turn. We are told that Lara's identity now belongs to the explicitly unreliable storytelling of her would-be suitors, who can't even talk among themselves about their feelings for her because, as Reuben succinctly puts it, they're boys, and boys don't do that. You could call this a way of centering a woman in men's internal lives, and in a sense it is, but it also reduces her personhood to an idol. Pathologic is rife with dead and beloved women who motivate living men. As Yulia says of Nina Kaina, they love her because she was a true queen. They love her because she died young. That bitterness inside her, her true internal life that she expresses for the first time in the act of killing Block, is gone. It is prevented from ever coming to fruition. Lara has become a dead wife, trapped in an eternal summer where she is gentle and fair, simultaneously a brave little girl and a compassionate Madonna. That's all she's allowed to be. This dynamic comes into sharp relief with another Pathologic 3 invention, the new art installation in the cathedral. On day 11, Maria Kaina publicly murders the man who killed her father. But we don't find her in a jail cell. Her experience is pure triumph. Not even the consequent fall of the polyhedron can break her high. Even if you prevent the assassination from taking place, Maria isn't punished for trying. So why does Maria Kaina always win, and Lara Ravel always lose? Why is Maria allowed to commit this act, but Lara killed and sanitized by necessity? It comes back to Platz's because. Because femmes fatales disrupt the gender restrictions society places on women. Maria kills Karminski by extension, through the hand of Andre, who I explained in Remystifying Maria Kaina to be Maria's masculine counterpart, and she stands in the cathedral beside Andre, but avoids the spotlight. Nobody even mentions her presence at the murder scene. She herself uses characteristically evasive language that sidesteps the intentionality of her role, the same way she discussed her father and uncle's deaths in Pathologic Classic. This is an extremely gendered style of murder, the same employed by Electra of the Orestea in her own revenge against her father's killer. Electra lures Aegisthus to his demise. She encourages the murder of Clytemnestra, but it's her brother, Orestes, who commits the act and receives both the credit and the notoriety. In this way, Maria grasps the standards of womanhood, twists them, and elevates them to horror, but in no way threatens or suggests that she has left the bounds of what is permitted of women. Her murder plot is the fulfillment of her own prophecy, and Dankovsky calls her, quote, a demon, beautiful and terrible. This is a far cry from Lara, who walked up to an army general and shot him cleanly in the head with a pistol that she is extremely comfortable and competent with. Lara utilizes no esoteric philosophy and has none of the magical powers that are associated with the town's influential women. Lara's quest is a traditionally masculine quest, perhaps the most timelessly masculine quest there is. Revenge for one's father, the hero, carried out violently and by one's own hand. On stage, Lara is herself an Orestes, even a Hamlet. This is not a woman's role. In Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing, Beatrice swears while trying to convince a man to avenge her relative on her behalf.
Oh, that I were a man! Oh, that I were a man for his sake. Or that I had any friend would be a man for my sake. Oh, God, that I were a man! I would eat his heart in the marketplace.
Without being a man, Lara shoots Block to death in the town hall. That is what makes Lara fundamentally incompatible with the life of the town. The town is a story, and in attempting to respect Lara's choice by imagining her capable of completing her goal and determined to do so no matter what, the storytellers have created a character that was incompatible with the internal logic of the world they also created. Her bloodlust and human determination degendered her. And so the town's survival, which is to say the resolution of this story, demanded she not only be removed, but aggressively regendered. This is the function of heteronormative and paternalistic dialogue and memories that emphasize her as a Madonna. There's nothing I can say that will fix this. There's nothing that you can do to change this. Even a deal with the devil only returns a fragment of Lara. It isn't that her life is incompatible with the life of the town, it's that her agency, her humanity, and her monstrosity are. Here lies a woman who took justice into her own hands, who was undeterrable in her conviction to avenge her father and the violence perpetrated by the powerful against the powerless. Here lies a woman who sought absolution through action, and who can find it only if the bachelor relinquishes his power over the fate of the town. An essential point in this process is the betrayal, in which Lara decides to go against the bachelor's direction. Up until this point, the plot itself is structurally identical to its previous iterations. Only the time travel mechanic allows us a titillating glimpse at what her success could have looked like. Here the thread is resolved in the bachelor's mind by his paternalistic command. He believes that Lara, by hearing it, has given her word to obey, in the same way that the player has forbidden her from taking this action in both previous games. The shift occurs when, for the first time, she refuses to listen, and then the floodgates open. From this moment, the bachelor begins to take more and more invasive and violent measures to stop her. These are framed as the consequences of her conviction, of her insubordination, and the game utilizes all the men closest to her to get her back in line. This is the implication realized. The implicit threat that makes paternalistic command fundamentally coercive. Do as I say, it's for your own good. Do as I say, or you'll force my hand. Do as I say, or else. In Pathologic 3, Lara Ravel was subjected to the or else. Butchery.